Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon all of you, ladies, gentlemen, and my fellow audience. First of all, thank you so much for watching the content that I'm sharing through YouTube. One of the questions among the emails that I get, right, and something that gets to be discussed with a lot of clients that I have is why do I create the type of content I do? For me, I felt like I could explain it better in sort of raw, authentic, non-scripted video. For me, it's about breaking shackles, right? I felt for my entire life, right? I'm thankful for my father actually for raising me in a certain way because he raised me and at home I was free of shackles. My mentality was built that way. But when I went to school, I was in college, and I was in campus, and I was in corporate sector, worked for 10 years, more than 10 years. All of these places, one thing I realized was that they were built to enslave us. We have invisible shackles. You don't see it, but if you really look at your hands like this, you really have shackles. You're chained. You can't be creative. You can't be original. You don't have freedom to think. You don't have freedom to push boundaries within the spaces that you operate. Only if you step out of those regimes, only if you step out of those spheres, you get to be creative. You get to be original. I experienced this heavily at even, in Kingswood. I was a very serious scout. I was, I have long history with scouting. In fact, I'm one of the very few scouts to represent Sri Lanka in the centenary Brownsea Island ceremony. And despite having committed myself so much, there was so much oppression in scouting. I'm one of the most slapped junior scouts in Kingswood scouting. Right? So oppression is there because if someone tries to go against the rules, someone tries to break free, it doesn't work. This is a big problem. And for me, it translates to education because if you really think about education, education and learning is supposed to make you free. It has to make you a freer soul. You have to be liberated. Education is the first or the starting point of liberalism, freedom. But today, what has happened? Education is creating factory workers or rather office workers. And education is creating a mentality that going to an office 9 to 5, you finish that work, you come back home, is content that it's enough. It may be enough, but it shouldn't tell you that. You may be content with doing an office job, but that shouldn't be where your life stops. Life is much more than that. It's beyond that. For me, it's about the content. Why I do this, why I create this is because especially for young learners, if you're someone who is between 12 years to 25, 30 years, you're my main audience. It's about breaking your mentality, breaking your mind free from all the shackles that bind it. Do you know that I decided to break free of the shackles I was bounded with when I was about 27 years old? And it took me more than 3 years, one by one, step by step, to break free from the shackles I was bound with. It's that rigged. So when someone is asking you to do a degree, when someone is asking you to do a professional qualification, they're trying to bind you into a way of thinking that they attribute to, they believe. You shouldn't do it because they are asking you to do it. You should do it because you want to do it and because it will help you do it. This is what I'm trying to tackle. I want every learner, every young professional in the world to do things they want to do because those things will benefit them, not someone else. Right? I teach CIMA, I teach CIM, I teach CFA, I teach ACCA. And one of the things I see with all of these qualifications from the push end of things, right? From the marketing end of things, is everybody's trying to convince you that they are the best. And you get lost. You don't know which is the right decision. These are shackles that bind us. We need to break apart from them. We need to create a generation that are not afraid of what the future will hold, that can take risks, that can be original and creative and make the world a better place. What has the baby boomer era done? The world is gone to shit today. Pardon my language. It really has gone to shit. There are wars waged. There's COVID. The environment is non-existent today. Forest cover is depleting. Forest fires are rampaging. Volcanoes, tornadoes, global warming. Everest is decreasing its height. Everest is shortening. Glaciers are melting. Is this the world that we need? Is this the world that we've created? What kind of world is this? How can our parents tell us that they left the world a better place than they found it? No, they've left the world a worse place than they found it. This is the legacy of the previous generation. We need to change this. We need to fight this. We need to break apart from the shackles that they've created, the generations before us created. Capitalism is a shackle. Democracy is a shackle. It's a lie. But without a learned mind, without a sharp mind, without educating yourself, without learning properly, without reading, without thinking, you cannot understand this. Because it's so beautifully presented in such a way that we fall for it very easily. Right? How is it that we glorify movies that have violence? How is the world's greatest box office number is coming from movies that have the biggest amounts of violence and killing? Imagine that. How is it? What has happened to peace? Right? When did it become so uncool to talk about humility, love, compassion, kindness? When did it become a trend only for religious leaders to talk about those good human values? Right? Everything is being labeled, everything is being painted under large big words, me too, some hashtag, some campaign, when core human values are lost. Everybody is lying, everybody is deceitful, everybody is trying to convince you to do something that will benefit them, not you. This needs to break. That is the motive here. That is why I create the type of content I create, because for me, it's always been about breaking the shackles apart. I think that is a more worthy cause than anything else. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful of my life, because the way I grew up in school, I was never in class. Right? And I think fundamentally that was one of the biggest reasons when I left college, when I left Kingswood, I was not someone who was oriented to that 8-period system, which is basically a training for the 9 to 5 office route. So by the time I was leaving college, it didn't really work. For me, what I had learned from the college was get the job done. Get the job done. So I worked for 10 years. Everywhere I worked, I got the job done. Not just at mediocre level. Alhamdulillah, I was able to perform really well and make the clients really happy. To the point that I was able to satisfy and convince these people that I was someone they should keep. This is if I can do it, what I'm saying is that I'm not the one. What I'm saying is you're also the one. Even you can do it. If you break apart from the shackles, if you're not bounded. When we are bounded, imagine someone has tied you up. What can you do? You can't do beyond what room you have, right? If the length of the rope that is binding you is 10 centimeters, that's the amount of freedom you have. But if you don't have those shackles, you're free to do everything you want. And then comes the question what you do. And what you do has to be fundamentally good. It has to be fundamentally positive and contributing to the world. I think a lot about content, I think a lot about content before I create it. And for me, even I want to make a YouTube video about how to learn from my channel. Because you watch a 5-minute video, to create that 5-minute video, I've thought for 5 days. I don't just write a slide and then, share it. I'm reading it, changing it, editing it, reviewing it. Sometimes I get rid of slides. Sometimes I come up with ideas and I delete them altogether. I decide not to do it. So how can you absorb my 5-minute video, which I took 5 days to create in that 5 minutes? No, you can't. In fact, I don't think that if you're watching my channel, you should watch more than one video every 3 days. You're really going to learn from it. or else, it won't even take one day to watch all the videos. So learning is important, adapting is important, flexibility is important, but all of that has to be built, all the skills, all the important things that people talk about has to be built on truth, on good human values. Another issue, all right, that I see rampant today is people coming and telling you how to behave. They're telling you, you do this, you will go right, you will go this, you will be able to do this, you will be able to become that person. How is it that is true when that person's circumstance is different? How can a fellow from a rich world who is coming from a really, who is coming from a life who has had everything, come and tell you, if you are from a poor background, come and tell you this is how you make it, when they don't even know how hard it is for you to eat one meal. When I watch some of the personality development leadership courses and the programs and the trailers that are pitched so glamorously, so glorifyingly, what I see is they are out of context. They cannot be applied to everyone. They apply to a certain class. Nobody is telling the ultimate truth. My brand of leadership training, my brand of personality coaching, my brand of career guidance has always been dealing with truth. And I'm not saying that you should take everything you hear from everyone at face value. You have to have a free mind to be able to think freely. Even the equality of thought and freedom of thought in the expression itself comes by having the freedom to think. Liberalism, true liberalism, being truly free. That is why I create the content I create. For me, it's about young learners, young professionals who should be able to change the world. If not, come 50 years down the line, come 100 years down the line, there won't even be a world for people to live. This is unprecedented. This is dangerous. We need to change this. And we all, I think, should keep trying to do what we can do. Thank you so much. May peace be upon all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.